There are encounters that defy logic and seem orchestrated by something far greater than chance. They are meetings that not only touch the soul, but awaken it. When two flames are ready, the universe does not ask. It acts. Coincidences pile up, paths cross with unsettling precision, and what once seemed improbable becomes inevitable. In that instant, doubt disappears. What once looked external is, in truth, an inner calling being answered. The force that unites two souls in harmony is the same one that governs the collective unconscious, an invisible field of meaning where nothing happens by accident and everything serves the great work of individuation. This video is an invitation to see the invisible, to recognize the signs, and to understand that a true encounter only takes place when both are prepared to recognize one another. If you believe that nothing is accidental, comment, "I am ready to recognize what is real." In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, the meeting of two prepared souls is not simply a romantic or symbolic event, but a profound manifestation of the individuation process, the inner journey toward wholeness. According to Jung, each individual carries unconscious aspects that must be acknowledged and integrated. The other, in this context, becomes a living mirror, reflecting our projections, revealing our shadows, and pushing us to grow. When two flames are ready, their meeting is not accidental. It is a call from the self, the organizing core of the psyche, guiding individuals toward integration. The universe, understood here as the symbolic expression of the collective unconscious, acts as a synchronistic agent, aligning external events with deep inner needs. This mysterious movement, which Jung named synchronicity, shows that certain connections carry such strong archetypal weight that they appear inevitable. Furthermore, the meeting of two conscious souls allows for the integration of the inner opposites, the masculine and feminine within, anima and animus, that must be harmonized if one is to reach a state of completeness. It is not about finding a missing half in the other, but about recognizing that this other awakens what was dormant inside us. The universe does not force the encounter out of whim, but as a response to the inner readiness of both. When two individuals reach a certain level of awareness and authenticity, life truly conspires for them to meet, recognize one another, and above all, transform each other. For Jung, synchronicity is not just a curious coincidence, but a meaningful manifestation of links between inner and outer events that share a common significance, even without causal relation. It is precisely in this phenomenon that we find the symbolic and energetic foundation for the idea that the universe forces the meeting of two flames when both are ready. Synchronicity reveals a higher intelligence working behind events, especially those that transform us. When two souls vibrate at compatible frequencies, having already crossed essential stages of individuation, recognizing their shadows and their potentials, the symbolic field of the collective unconscious seems to reorganize itself to allow their paths to cross. These meetings are not triggered by logic or planning, but by a mysterious arrangement that goes beyond reason. It is as if life itself conspired in favor of a union necessary for the evolutionary progress of both. Jung observed in clinical studies that patients often reported seemingly casual yet deeply significant events, coinciding with moments of profound inner transformation. This interconnection between psychic world and external reality is what he defined as synchronicity. Applied to the meeting of two flames, souls already awakened to their inner processes, synchronicity reveals itself through symbols, dreams, chance encounters, déjà vu sensations, and unlikely alignments. All of it reinforces the feeling that something inevitable, larger than personal control, is at work. It is essential to understand that such encounters only become possible when there is inner readiness. Before that, life may cross two people's paths, but they will not truly see one another. Readiness does not mean simply wanting the other. It means being able to sustain the reflection they bring. If unprepared, the energy of the encounter can be unsettling, activating wounds, traumas, and defense mechanisms. But with psychic maturity, that same energy becomes a gateway to expansion and healing. Synchronicity, in this sense, acts as a green light from the unconscious for the ego to recognize the path. It manifests as situations that seem scripted by an unseen intelligence. Two strangers sharing similar dreams, unexpected encounters that change everything, or a chain of connected events that defy probability. The key lies in meaning, not in coincidence itself. It is the meaning attributed to the meeting that reveals its transformative purpose. Synchronicity also plays an almost alchemical role in this process. It catalyzes the beginning of a new stage in individuation. The other does not arrive to complete us, but to provoke inner movement. Their presence awakens latent areas of the psyche and invites us to deepen self-knowledge. And though it feels magical, synchronicity demands sensitive listening, surrender, and courage to follow signs that do not come from the rational mind. The universe in this vision is not something external acting on us, but a symbolic expression of the unconscious responding to our inner willingness to change. When Jung said, "What is necessary for the soul appears at the right time," he was speaking precisely of this alignment between inner desire for evolution and the events that arise to fulfill it. The meeting of two flames, therefore, is a dance between destiny and readiness. In the end, one must keep the eyes of the soul open to see that nothing truly random exists. Synchronicity is the language the universe uses when it wants to show us the time has come. And when that time arrives, everything, absolutely everything, conspires to make the meeting happen. It is not about searching, but recognizing, not about forcing, but allowing. Because when the flames are awakened and aware, the universe does not just bring them close. It unites what was already one, but did not yet know it. Every true encounter is also a confrontation. Not because conflict must exist, but because the significant other, especially a soul with whom there is deep resonance, brings to light what is hidden within us. In Jung's analytical psychology, this hidden content is called the shadow, the collection of rejected, denied, or unconscious aspects of the personality. When two flames are ready and the universe favors their meeting, the impact is not only harmony, but the intensity of mirroring that arises between them. The other becomes a portal to what we do not want, or cannot yet see in ourselves. The shadow may contain both repressed negative contents, envy, jealousy, arrogance, fear, anger, and undeveloped potentials such as creativity, strength, sensitivity, courage. And it is precisely through deep relationships that the shadow is revealed with greatest clarity. The meeting with a significant other is therefore a call for integration. There is no true encounter without the activation of the shadow, for a genuine bond is not formed only at the conscious or idealized level, but also in the unconscious, where our densest and most authentic parts dwell. This process can be uncomfortable. The brilliance of the other may trigger feelings of inferiority. Their freedom may highlight our own prisons. Their confidence may touch our oldest insecurities. It is not the other's fault, but the way they mirror what we need to face. Jung affirmed that what most bothers us in others often reflects something unresolved within ourselves. Thus, the relationship becomes a psychic laboratory where the shadow can finally be seen, named, and integrated. It must be stressed, however, that such activation only transforms when there is emotional maturity to sustain the process. When the shadow is unconsciously projected onto the other, we tend to blame, judge, or idealize them. We cast our expectations, needs, and pains, hoping they will fill what is truly our task to integrate. For this reason, Jung emphasized the need to withdraw projections, recognizing that what we see in the other often says more about us than about them. Contrary to common belief, true love does not arise from idealized completeness, but from mutual acceptance of shadows. When two flames are ready, they are not only enchanted by the light they emit, but also recognize each other in wounds, sorrows, and contradictions. The other ceases to be merely an object of desire and becomes a companion in the inner journey. At this level, there is a complicity that transcends the surface and roots itself in commitment to psychic truth. Such relationships are not easy, but they are liberating. They shatter narcissistic illusions and place us face to face with our humanity. They demand dialogue, listening, humility, and above all, emotional responsibility. The shadow, once integrated, ceases to be destructive and becomes a source of creative power. What once sabotaged us now propels us. Fear turns to courage. Anger transmutes into discernment. And this happens only in the relational field, where we are pushed to leave the ego's comfort zones. Recognizing one's own shadow also allows us to see the others with greater compassion. When we stop demanding perfection, we open space for real love, the kind that does not idealize but embraces. Two flames, seeing one another in both light and shadow, create a field of honesty where mutual growth becomes possible. There is no need to hide or pretend. There is space for vulnerability, and it is precisely this that cements true connection. It is vital to understand that individuation, for Jung, necessarily involves confronting and integrating the shadow. Meeting the significant other in this sense is less a reward than a catalyst. It accelerates the dive within, unlocks inner doors, and allows repressed aspects to come to light. It is not the ideal romance, but a deep, intense, and transformative journey of self-discovery. Thus, when the universe unites two ready flames, it also summons them to face what they have been avoiding, not as punishment, but as liberation. And only those with the courage to look at their own shadow can sustain a love that truly transforms. Within the structure of the human psyche, Jung identified two fundamental archetypes that embody the unconscious aspects of femininity and masculinity within each person: anima in men and animus in women. These archetypes are not simply opposites, but symbolic forces shaping relationships, emotional projections, and above all, our ability to recognize the other as a reflection of what lies unconscious in ourselves. When two flames are ready and the universe aligns their paths, this recognition happens not only at the level of affection or attraction, but in the symbolic and archetypal realm of the psyche, where each sees in the other the living embodiment of their anima or animus. The anima represents for men the inner feminine soul, intuition, sensitivity, creativity, the ability to surrender and feel. The animus represents for women the inner masculine aspect, strength, rationality, assertiveness, direction. When unconscious, these archetypes are projected onto figures of the opposite sex, or anyone who symbolically embodies that inner pole. This is why so often we fall in love not with who the other really is, but with what they awaken in our soul. We do not see the person, but our archetypal image projected upon them. As individuation progresses, however, these archetypes are no longer externalized ideals, but are recognized within. This inner integration lets us see the other, not as salvation or completion, but as a true mirror of our journey. When two people reach this level of awareness, their meeting is the weaving together of two expanding wholes, not two needy halves. At this point, recognizing the other as an inner mirror becomes a sacred experience. The fascination we feel for someone who understands us without words or touches us with a look often arises because they resonate symbolically with our unconscious archetype. A man who has never embraced his vulnerability may find in an intuitive woman the reflection of his unintegrated anima. What attracts him is actually a part of himself crying out for recognition. Likewise, a woman who has not developed autonomy or clarity of purpose may be magnetically drawn to a man embodying the very qualities she must cultivate within. It is important to realize that the other is not the archetype itself, but the channel that activates it. When we project our anima or animus onto someone, we risk idealization, expecting them to fulfill a role that is in fact our responsibility. This is why deep relationships require us to reclaim these projections and recognize that what fascinates us in the other is above all an invitation to self-knowledge. In individuation, integrating anima and animus means consciously embracing these inner opposites. A man does not become less manly by accessing his sensitivity. On the contrary, he becomes more whole. A woman does not lose her essence by developing assertiveness. She becomes freer. When both have walked part of this inner path, their encounter ceases to be a search for completion and becomes fertile ground for co-evolution. This kind of relationship does not eliminate challenges, but transforms them. Frustrations once born of dependence or idealization are replaced by deep dialogues and mutual growth. The other is no longer an enigma to solve, but a clear reflection of where we are in our own process. There is respect for each one's inner time, listening for each other's needs, and above all, humility to admit we are still learning how to love consciously. The universe, in bringing together two ready flames, offers no guarantee of permanence, but opportunities for profound mirroring. The more aware we are of our inner archetypes, the more we can discern between projection and real presence. The true encounter happens when we stop expecting the other to save us and begin to see in them the chance to meet ourselves more deeply. The love that emerges from this recognition is not blind, but lucid, not dependent, but free. It does not seek completion in the other, but expansion with them. When two flames look at each other and see not only the face but also the soul, it means both have walked far enough to recognize the divine within themselves, and thus can see the divine in the other. Individuation, a central concept in Jung's psychology, is the process of becoming what one truly is, a continuous journey of differentiation, integration, and expansion of consciousness. It is the path by which an individual moves away from social masks, external expectations, and unconscious conditioning, finally recognizing and living their inner totality. This process, though deeply personal, becomes richer and more transformative when lived within a meaningful relationship. When two flames are ready and the universe favors their meeting, it is not only the bond between two people that occurs, but the awakening of two individual processes that intertwine and push each other forward. Relationships, especially those that touch the soul, are fertile ground for individuation, not because the other will make us whole, but because they function as mirror and catalyst. In intimate interactions, our masks fall, our defenses show, and our unconscious patterns surface. The other, by confronting us with our automatic reactions, emotional wounds, and resistances, offers the chance to go beyond what we already know about ourselves. They push us to step out of the comfort of the persona, the social image we wear, and into contact with our deepest truth. Thus, a relationship is not the opposite of individuation, as many think, but one of its greatest allies. This requires both people to be willing to see, listen, and transform. When two individuals meet in readiness, with some awareness of their shadows, projections, and inner archetypes, the relationship becomes a field of continuous personal development. Each conflict is an opportunity for growth, each misunderstanding an invitation to self-knowledge, each moment of vulnerability a chance for integration. For Jung, mature love is only possible when there is differentiation, when each individual recognizes the other as an autonomous being with their own inner world, not an extension of oneself. This differentiation allows the initial fusion of passion to evolve into a deeper bond built on respect, admiration, and freedom. When such love takes form, it is no longer fusional, but alchemical. It transforms not by absorbing the other, but by expanding the self. In this way, the relationship becomes a shared journey of individuation. Each continues their own path, but a common space is built, with care, truth, and presence, where both meet to grow together. Difficulties stop being threats and become understood as inevitable parts of the process. Emotional wounds, instead of permanent breaks, become bridges of reconnection. Deep listening replaces judgment, and acceptance replaces demand. The relationship as a path of individuation is not based on perfection but sincerity. It is about creating a bond where one can fail and learn, fall and rise, retreat and advance again, always with the conscious intention of using the relationship as a mirror and a tool for polishing the soul. The other is not seen as an obstacle, but as an essential part of the journey. Even when separation occurs, it is not necessarily failure, but maybe the closing of a cycle of learning and growth. The great transformation occurs when both stop expecting the other to be a constant source of validation and take responsibility for their own emotional growth. This allows the relationship to flourish without dependence. Each becomes the guardian of their own process, while also serving as witness and support for the other's journey. Love then is purified, no longer a need, but a conscious choice, renewed each day, grounded in truth and freedom. This level of relationship is rare because it requires courage. Courage to look at oneself honestly, courage to listen without defensiveness, courage to grow together without losing oneself. But when two flames are truly ready, this courage has already been cultivated individually. That is why the universe acts. It recognizes fertile ground where love can bloom as individuation in motion. In such a union, there is no longer room for power games, emotional manipulation, or dependency. There is room for authenticity, reciprocity, and expansion. The relationship becomes a path of transcendence, where the ego is not erased but placed in service of the self. And the self, that deeper, wiser center of the psyche, guides both not only toward personal fulfillment, but toward the revelation of the sacred within the bond. Thus, the true meeting of two souls is not merely the beginning of a love story, but the turning point of a spiritual journey. A moment when I and you recognize each other as reflections of the same mystery, and love ceases to be just a feeling to become a path of inner transformation. Individuation and relationships do not merely coexist, they weave together in a precise dance, where every step toward the other is also a step toward oneself. When two flames are ready, the universe does not just cross paths, it reveals destinies. What once looked like coincidence becomes synchronicity. What once was need transforms into presence, and what once was projection becomes recognition. Jung's analytical psychology teaches that the true meeting of souls is not the product of chance, but of inner readiness to walk toward totality. In this process, the shadow is illuminated, inner archetypes are integrated, and the relationship becomes a living mirror of the unconscious. These connections do not arise to complete us, but to challenge, provoke, heal, and expand us. Each glance, each silence, each confrontation carries the potential to lead us more deeply into the essence of who we are. And that is why, when we are ready, life conspires. Barriers dissolve, leaving only invitations. If this journey resonates with you, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who needs this message. And do not leave without watching the video now on your screen. It may be the next step in your process of self-discovery and transformation. True love begins with the encounter, but it blossoms with consciousness.